It's time for Rosé All Day and Juleigh's a Mess, where we talk about current events and living in an intersex life. And now, here's Juleigh.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rosé All Day, Juleigh's a Mess. I am your host, Juleigh Mayfield, and this is, our other co-host, Rebecca Davis. We're actually in the studio together, which is something we've been trying to do for a while. And we are actually not in the studio tonight, so this is not live. We are actually going to just do a random topic that we think needs to be covered, and you can watch us live on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. But once again, this is just kind of what we call a cover episode when usually we're out of town or we can't be on the same computer at the same time. Or, you know what I mean, when she can't stream from Savannah and when I'm not available, this is our cover episode. So also, we are getting back into the mix, so you will be able to find us on Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts as well. We are just trying to, it's been a couple of weird months for me, and we've had a lot going on, and so we are just trying to get back into our regular MO. And our regular MO is Optimistic in Orlando, which is where we cover the pitfalls of online dating in a big city. And we will be getting back into that within our live shows as well. But today, because that's not kind of what we're doing, we're just going to talk about, I think the topic we decided on for this episode is,
what percentage of your relationship or dating experience with someone, especially at the beginning, should be about sex?
and if you follow Juleigh, you know that, I fall right into it as soon as I match with somebody. So it's probably why I'm single. But we're going to talk about it because people do have questions. They have questions about it. How much do you talk about? How much is too much? Mm-hmm. Is it a giveaway when they're talking, you match with somebody, male or female? Is it a giveaway when it's all about sex out of the gate? Well, let's talk about it because we definitely have some, I wouldn't say they're polar opposites of.
No, we have two sides of the coin experiences, especially had some recent ones, of the being able to talk about it a lot, but it's not sketchy, and talking about it a similar amount, but it is sketchy. And like, where's the line where you're sort of like, this doesn't feel like it's going to be fun for me other than in depth. If even.
And you have to remember, we talk often on Optimistic in Orlando about gutter swipes. And I was sharing with her that never in a million years do you think, because we're very definitive about what a gutter swipe is. We've talked about it on the show before. And when you think you've met somebody that shouldn't even be in that category based on age and demographic, and then they prove to you that even at an older onset, they are very much a gutter swipe, and it kind of blindsides you because you're like, what? You are old enough to know better, and you're choosing to still be douchey and guttery. And that's what we mean by that kind of talking about sex too much as an onset.
And I feel like at that, we call them elder gutters. I would say we're being unfair with the term elder, probably 45 plus, 50 plus, maybe. Anyone in that?
I don't know. I mean, the one we're talking about was Gandalf age.
But yeah, anything above 50,
he
if
thought
you're
he was
a gutter, you're an elder gutter. In the same way, I'm an elder millennial. Anyway, so the elder gutters are often, they've just been lifelong fuckboys. They used to be the sort of Sean Connery type. That was the elder gutter, but they were actually kind of classy. The womanizer for life
But now they're a little assy.
But now they're kind of like the 20-somethings, and they're like committed to it because they're like, well, I've been doing this my whole life now, so what's another?
Yeah, I've been doing this for
years.
decades, so why should I change now? You
Yeah,
know, they often it brings that you can't teach a dog new tricks.
Yeah,
that makes that sound very like.
If you're dating somebody who is, I would say, over 50 for sure, I think at that point you just gotta accept this is who you are. This is how you're always going to be.
Which we talked about that with this last person. We did talk about that because I remember we talked about it, and I was okay with it
at first
because I thought this person is going to engage with me, and we're going to do things together. And he seems like he's very into like activities outside, and but then as I started to talk and engage with him even more, I started to think, what?
Flaggy.
Sexist.
So sexist. Absolutely sexist. The thing is, it's just tough because sometimes, and I'm not going to get ageist here and put this on age, but also with experience comes the ability to make people feel like you're going to date them a little bit more successfully than maybe a young 20-something who you're like, oh yeah, I know you just want sex. But sometimes it comes with a certain level of charm or more old-fashioned gentleman-like thing, but really they're still trying to do the same old. Anyway, but so
what is, let's go right. What is too much out of the gate? Okay. And for everybody, it's going to be different because there are going to be people that are drawn to like, let's swing from chandeliers out of the gate.
Well, this is the thing. Why don't we say what's your percentage and what's mine of how much you want? Let's do both. How much you want overall in a relationship for the sexual aspect to be a large part of it. And then how much do you want to experience that right out of the gate on date one with that person? So for me, I would say I want sex to be 40 to 50% of the dynamic. That feels really high, but that's where I'm at. Then I would say right out of the gate, you can't be coming on higher than 30, maybe like 15 on the first date. Even if we sleep together, you still, the overall dynamic, I feel like at the beginning almost has to be even more established that it's above 40 for me, because then you can kind of get into it. So, but that's like my MO. That's my very specific thing. Some people want like an 80% sexual relationship.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with that. No. I think too, there is a subset, before I tell my percentage, there is definitely a subset out there of women who feel like if they don't put out on the first date, they won't get a second date.
Yeah.
And if they do put out on a first date, it establishes a baseline for that person to be extremely sexual with them all the time because they put out on the first date. That said, I really like to get to know somebody, and I like going in knowing what their quirks and kind of their things are to see if we're a match.
Yes.
Plus, I mean, let's be honest, as Manny and Nate said yesterday, I should change the show title to Intersex in the City. And I thought it's not just about intersex people. However, that does bring a new level into things. By the way, Manny's downstairs watching The Walking Dead. So all these ASMR sounds in the background are, yes, just ASMR. But I think you have to establish, so I then have to walk in and say, this is this, and this is what I bring to the table, which on some level directs men into being very sexual. And so I'm kind of like, well, I'm kind of doing it to myself, but at the same time, I like to know where I stand. So percentage-wise, I would say within the relationship and within the confines of the relationship, I do have a high sex drive, and I would need it to be 45 to, let's just do a 10 number spread, 45 to 55%. But in that, I'm saying like, but I'm also of the subset of, it doesn't have to be penetration to be sex. Yeah. Everybody's got, so for me, it could be a night of intimacy. It could be adult fun time in one of the many facets of that, but it doesn't have to necessarily be
sex,
hardcore sex, right?
Yeah.
And so,
or even like a sexual energy that's part of the relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And that could be 4 to 5 days for me. right? But
Mhm.
but I do like PDA, and I do like the occasional
Yeah.
slap on the butt in public, and I
Yeah.
do like a guy whispering in my ears and saying, "God, you're really sexy, and I can't wait to get home and
Yeah.
have my way with you," or "Look, a bounce house, let's get the baby
Yeah.
oil and crash this 4-year-old's party." But like that's what I need, right? And
The
then
4-year-old would then be
not
in the house.
yes, we're
We're
stealing
taking the bouncy house.
That's right. And then I guess how much going into discussion when you're just meeting somebody?
No,
I
like,
would say,
yeah.
well, I would say I don't want it to dominate the conversation. We're going to talk about it, but I need it to be like on the 20 to 25% going in, because I'm trying to get to know you, yes, but I'm not trying to be.
You want to get a read on whether they're a match to your sex percentage.
Yes, but I don't want to know out of the gate that you run Pornhub every hour of the day in your house. And I don't want to know that, like, if we go on a boat ride this weekend, you're going to expect me to get drunk and play around with the other women on the boat. Like,
well, we might actually want to know that because we rooted that out. However, but yes,
you know what I
don't want
mean?
to lead with that. You don't want to lead with that.
Right.
But so this brings up an interesting point. First of all, I think I changed my percentage to 50 after we've been talking. And then
it's the bounce house, people. She's really excited about the bounce house.
Got me. But I think what I think at the beginning, you want to know soon enough whether your percentages are matched. So you do want it to kind of be present in the room. But I think because people treat each other so poorly on the internet, I almost am like overcorrecting in the sense of I'm like, can you hold a freaking conversation with me? Do you really want to get to know who I am? And it's almost like I kind of put you through the paces and then we get into our flow. But it's a strategy. But I would say the thing that turned it for us between the two experiences you were talking about was almost the energy of it, and that it was like it was a very goal oriented. In the case we didn't like, it was very goal oriented. It wasn't match oriented. So if you're talking about, hey,
it appeared to be match oriented in the beginning.
Yes, it did, because you were talking about how you were talking about everything in the world and all of that, and so it sounded great. But then when push came to shove on the date, you're like, we're in a public place talking about all this crazy stuff you want to do, and like, I don't even know if I want to do that, but the woman behind us certainly doesn't want to know. So the real
change was I was hosting a game night the other night that Rebecca was involved in. We had friends over and I was the host. I was one of the hostesses, and
it was innocent, by the way.
This individual reached out during the middle of the night and asked for me to validate his sexual wants.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm hosting a game night. This is not the time. And I certainly can't take myself out of this equation to cater to you.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I'm not telling you to cater to me. And I'm like, that's exactly what you just asked for. Mm-hmm. You said, please tell me that you want this, 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 and this. And it was extremely sexual. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and as the messages went on yesterday, he was like, I don't want you to think that I'm engaging in that. I thought, that's exactly what you've been engaging in since our first date. That's all you wanted to talk about and do. And on some level, I accepted it at the beginning because I thought, this is his fantasy and this is his quirk, and I can accept it if I want to get to know him better and date him. But when I look back on it, and when I got friends' opinions involved, like Manny's opinion and Rebecca's opinion, he's very sexist, and that was his MO from the get-go.
And the sexism comes from like literally the word objectification suits here, but that he is the actor in the situation and you are the thing being acted on. That he is the audience member and all the women are the entertainment. That he is the paying customer and you are the service.
That he is the greatest version of a man that you could get.
Yes.
And he should be catered to.
Yes. And so then the conversation was about whether Juleigh was off and if she was not giving off the right vibes anymore after this date and if it was blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, this is not about her. And if she's showing up well enough for you to be comfortable and blah, 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 you say, hey, noticed you seemed a little off from how you were showing up before, or not off. Can we say different? And then you can say, hey, you know what? I actually did. Yeah, some things maybe popped up for me and I'm kind of thinking them through. And then you have an adult conversation. This is about how you were doing things wrong. You were presenting wrong. Well, now I think we're going to have to downgrade this. I think I think you're looking for something I can't offer you. I mean, it's just
literally saying things like, oh, I think you have other options, which, okay.
I know
probably
that.
do.
I'm well aware. Thank you.
But I don't, that's what dating is. And
just this idea that like you're out there waiting to be picked and he's the one that picks. It's very sexist.
It was very sexist. Not to mention that, I'm going to say it because we're not giving him a code name like we normally do. There are people out there. He's 56. I think the trigger for me is that so many people are like, yeah, date him. He's older. You'll like him. Mm-hmm. He'll take care of you. And I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And then I'm like, he's no different than some of the 23-year-olds that I've dated. He's just older and knows better. We're in the restaurant. Now look, I've said this before, jokingly, even mentioned it recently to another guy that I'm starting to see. I was like, everybody is like, you have amazing breasts and you're so pretty and you're gorgeous in public. And I'm like, thank you. I would hope I'd be gorgeous, not in public too. But I've shared that I'm not, as many women are not, I'm not comfortable with every aspect of my body. And I don't think that I have a great stomach. I don't have a 6-pack. I don't have a 5-pack. I don't have a 2-pack. And recently I had gallbladder surgery, so I'm swollen from that. And I think I look like a malnourished manatee from the tits down, right? Which people are like crazy. That's how I feel, right? So mind you, being in a restaurant, and he says very candidly in this restaurant, he brought up swingers, and I thought, well, if that's your thing, that's your thing. And then he said, I find that most swingers, he said, the men are very attractive and gorgeous, even though I'm not into men. And he goes, but the women are all out of shape and overweight. And then he got up to go use the bathroom, and he turned around and he pointed out 2 women in the restaurant that he felt
were not up to par for him.
And literally said, that's the stuff we don't need. That's obesity. And I thought, you think they're big? I'm never going to be able to get undressed in front of you. And sometimes I wonder if that's what he meant by your demeanor changed after our date, because I thought you were totally shaming people that you didn't know in a restaurant.
Yeah. They weren't him approved. Well, and I always get, and I said this to you, this happened in LA a lot. People who are really into fitness, and they drop hints about how they like fit women, and they drop whatever. And you're like, even if you're at your fittest at that one moment, you're like, all I got to do is have some kind of infection, and I get on prednisone, and I'm out the door. Or like winter weight. You're not going to like my winter weight.
It didn't even
I'm
stop,
not comfortable. Like, I am not comfortable the second that a man is talking about how he needs women fit and he's all about their body type and whatever, because I'm like, okay, have I passed yet? Because you haven't seen me.
Because now I feel like
after you've seen me, if you keep talking about it, I know you're monitoring how much I'm eating. And then like, I'm just going to constantly be on edge.
Well, and then you're shaming people.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's terrible.
It's terrible to begin with.
And then I thought we were in a pizza restaurant, so I thought, let them enjoy their pizza.
And also like, thanks a lot for feeding me up just to shoot me down later.
It was the worst. Like when I think back on it now, I'm like, that's worse. And what's crazy is I've started talking to somebody else who has this great vibe, which is the vibe that this guy had originally too. And I'm like, okay, is the shoe going to drop? Am I about to find out with this guy if he's on the same? And I don't think he is, but I'm just like,
you never know.
It makes you literally like
you never know. You just never, ever know. It is just consistency over time. And unfortunately, well, this guy revealed himself quick, which was great, but it was a little
As
bit of a
gutter
shock.
slides do.
Yeah, but it was like we were in the car without a seatbelt for a second because it took us by surprise. So yeah, but there is the line in which if you're a high percentage person, maybe you're above 50, maybe you're 70, or you're looking for a relationship that's at a 70. I mean, you're gonna talk about it a lot with people, but again, it's the approach. It's like, are you treating them like a person first, or are you treating them like an experience? And I don't want to be an experience. I want to be a person that we have an experience together. And you also build the percentage within the relationship together. So if somebody's coming in, they don't like it. The zombies don't like it.
The zombies are not having it.
They're not having it. That's what happens to you if you keep going out with Pizza Guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he bites you and infects you, and you become a zombie.
Yeah. Anyway, so
our next show would be how much zombieing is too much zombieing early on in the relationship. Can you eat a brain on your first date?
But the other thing is that you build the percentage of that particular relationship together. So you kind of come in a certain way, but then you also like meld your preferences. So if a guy's coming in and he's like, it's going to be 80% and this is how it's going to go. And you know what? I don't think we're a match because you're not at 80%. It's like, well, that's not how it works. You work with, your 80 meets my 40. We decide if we're okay with 60. We decide if you need to do something else to match your 80. But like, it's a group effort. We're dancing here. Like,
I mean, it literally is. That's why communication is absolutely important every step of the way. And a lot of people don't have communication these days. They don't even have it socially. They don't have it relationship wise. They don't have it talking about boundaries. Nobody's talking about it.
No.
And communication is.
Which is why there's an argument for talking about it early on, especially, I would say, now we'll throw out random ages out there, but over the age of 40, where now I'm 35 as of yesterday when we're filming this.
Yeah, happy birthday.
But at this age and above, at this point, it's like, okay, I kind of know what I like, what I don't want, what I'm looking for. I'm fairly open, so I don't require so much negotiation up front. But if you know where you're at, you're like, this works for me, this doesn't, this is blah, blah, blah. Then at the beginning, establishing if you're a match and what your percentages are and what you're looking for is important. But again, it's the approach to the conversation. Are you doing this with me because we want to see if we should go out, and as adults, we want to see if it's part of our lives as matched? Or are you doing this with me because you're off to the races, because you're horny and you're just looking for an experience together, and you're promising me dates that you're never going to take me on because you know that's what I want, and you want to be with a high worth person?
Which, let's be honest, we often are in the hive and we talk about this. And I was sharing with Rebecca that I was looking at, we talk about these sites. Are we dating the same person? Are we dating the same guy? She's not on them as much, but lately, I will see posts where it seems like the man is the enemy, right? I'm sure women do it to men too. There just aren't. Men are wired differently, and they don't have sites. Are we dating the same girl? Some do, but then you go in, you see that there's maybe one post every like 5 months.
Yeah.
And then men play the whole wah me. Everybody's picking on me, and you go, well, they wouldn't pick on you if you weren't dating 16 women at the same time and had 4 baby mamas, and they're paying for your, like, you wouldn't be on the site.
You wouldn't be on the site.
And then you don't have to worry about it. But the trade-off is that there are a lot of women out there that say, it's me. I'm the reason I'm single, right? I read a meme on Facebook the other day that said, don't worry, it's not you. It's just 7.5 million people in the world don't want to be with you. And I thought, that's harsh. That's kind of harsh, right? That's harsh. I shared that with Manny. Manny was like, that's somebody that was triggered, right? That there was another thing today that was like, and I commented on this one, but it said, girls that get out of a relationship or women that are out of a relationship 2 months later are going on dates is a red flag. And I said, contraire, most of the men these days are going on dates while they're in the relationship.
2 months before it's over.
So I'm like, you can't say that. My point is that there are a lot of people that are single and they feel that it's them. Mm-hmm. And they certainly hate online dating. Now, look, our show is about online dating. And I just shared with Rebecca, we went out to Starbucks earlier before we started taping the shows. And I said, she said, maybe it's just men on the internet are trash. And I thought, probably, but women don't know where to go to meet men not on the internet, because we've been conditioned that you're going to find your next lover on the internet, because people are not going to church. They're not approaching you at the grocery store. You can go to a coffee shop and you can't tell if somebody's married, not married in there because there's free water for their dog. And people don't approach each other. And then, as we've already discussed tonight, they certainly don't communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, women, even in some of these sites, are like, where can I go to meet a guy? And the girl's like, well, you should go to blah, blah, blah on Friday night. And I was like, you just told 1.6 thousand women to go try this one place on a Friday night. Now they're going to be competing for the one guy that's maybe decent in there, that's not trying to find somebody to go home and bang.
I mean, I have a counter argument to this because I have very much honed in the skills or commitment to striking up conversations with strangers, or I am like so not able to be on the internet myself, unless for sometimes. And
because she lives vicariously through me, and she's like, ugh, I don't want to go out with any of you.
And whenever I talk to somebody, it's just like they're gutter within seconds, or they just annoy me. We just don't have anything in common, whatever. And in person, you can read the energy, you can blah, blah, blah. But you do have to, look, I could do a whole episode on tips for meeting people in person, but it's very rare that you can really, you might not be naturally suited to it. And also, I feel like most people don't do that. And most people aren't going to respond to you, and they're not going to look at you, and you're going to have to do a lot of the legwork. So, point is, you are kind of stuck with the internet a lot of the time. Just de facto, we're stuck with the internet. And again, unless you want to take my 3-part course that's $7,000. No, I'm kidding.
We can make that much. Our next show is a 3-part course.
I actually don't meet that many people, though, because I try to meet them in real life. So anyway, the point is, if you're looking for somebody to go out with this weekend, you're only going to find them on the internet. But our point is, it's probably going to be a terrible experience. So just buckle up. It's just the reality. And don't get drawn in just because this one's different than the last one. And I think this is how it's supposed
I think what was weird, which we talked about.
We met. You know, this is how my parents met. This is the energy. I'm a little salty because this just happened in a real life encounter. But like, you get caught up in like, okay, I found it. And you just always have to be ready. It's just probably not going to be it. And you just got to keep going.
I think what's funny is, I shared with her, which the guy that we were talking about earlier, everybody was like, you need to date old. You need to find somebody that's established. And so I was like, and I remember reaching out to her and I said, look, I found this guy in a hive. I know that I've been out of commission for about a month because of health issues. And I was like, he seems decent on paper. He's older. He says he's 47. And she jokingly read his profile and said he's like 57. It turns out he's 56. And I thought, why aren't you putting your real age on there, right? But certain people lie, and it's okay, right? It's just a number. But I liked his vibe because he literally came in going, I don't know about intersex, but I'm interested in your story. And I did Google you, and you do seem really spectacular and special and have a great vibe. And I thought, is this real? Or is he feeding into, is he telling me what I think I need to hear? Which that's a trigger for me, because I literally will say, oh my God, I don't have to educate them as much. They know how to read. Google is free, right? They looked me up. They looked at my bio, right? And they're okay with it. He had questions, but I liked where this conversation was going. And one of my roommates pointed out, Julie, you've literally been on the phone with him for 3 days straight. Like, you didn't come out of your room for like 8 hours last night just talking to this guy. And I said, I really like him. And then, of course, I shared with Rebecca, I'm like, I like him, and I'll see where it goes. He's saying he wants to take me here and do this. Let's just see if that goes. I'm not investing in it like I normally do. And she was like, good, you're finally learning. She's like, you're learning. And I'm seeing it in the way you respond to people. Absolutely. And then it still ended up being a crapshoot. And then I said to her, I'm talking to another guy right now. And I said, I feel like he may be a better match. And we also were being very sex positive in our discussions, but it's not captivating. I mean, it's not taking over the whole conversation. We're still talking about other things and things we like to do and how he has a life outside of dating. And he is only going to have certain days during the week that he would like to possibly see me. And he knows my story too. And he was like, I'm capable of reading. And he's like, I've done things like that before. So but then I told her today, I was like, but is the shoe going to drop? Is he going to end up being just another version of this other guy, but younger? I don't feel that's the case.
I don't feel that's the case from the energy too. But my point on that is I had a recent experience where I don't know what's going to go, but where it's like everything's kind of great, but it like something might be just not the right timing, or it might not be the right situation, or it might not be the right fit in another way. And so it's like you're still figuring out if your percentages are the same way or what they're going to be in, or all of those things. Like in life, you're going to have to figure out. And even when you find these like kind of perfect people where you're like, oh, this is it. I mean, then you've got the crapshoot of all of the things in your life that might not link up. So we're still going to figure that out with this person, hopefully. But that is just that's the trip we're all on, guys. I mean, it's hard to find someone good to date in the first place. And then even then, you got to find out if you're matched.
And obviously we're not matched, because you know what my major concern was? That he's 56 and I finally can
we're
play
going back to the guy.
I finally can play the kind of music I want in the car. And he'd probably love it. I'd be like, let's listen to the Bee Gees. And he'd be like, I love the Bee Gees. I was in high school when they came out. And I'm like, that. But clearly I'm not that disappointed if that was my takeaway. Right?
No, but this one was hard because he was.
This one was hard because he was
in many ways.
Yeah.
And yet he was not a great person. And we found that out. But a lot of times it's like you're struggling to find the match. And sometimes when you find a bunch of stuff that's matched, it's really kind of like hard for a second to let that go, because you're like, well, God damn it. This was going to be a good.
I think what's hard too for me is like, and I've noticed this with other people, but it's always the ones I really like and have hope for, that when I share that publicly with somebody, within a day it ends. It tanks. Like they drive right off the cliff within a day. And I'm like, maybe I should just not tell people that I'm interested in anybody, because it's going to go the way it goes anyway. But I just feel like, am I putting it out in the universe that I want it to work so badly and that I like this person, that the universe is like, just joking.
This could be an
which
episode.
Means that which means I've already screwed the new guy out of the ballpark.
No, I have two things that might be involved in that. But again, maybe we should think about this should be its own episode of manifesting things in relationships and sharing with people, building. So basically, there's the moment you meet the person and the things that are happening between you. And before you talk about it with anyone else, it's just the experiences. It's just the reality between you. The second that you have to frame it in order to put it in a voice message for your friend, or send them the pictures, or send them the text, you're now limiting pieces of information that are going into the story. And you're also adding future hopes into the story. And you're developing a story about the relationship. And that story is what you ultimately end up operating off of. And then the thing is if you involve other people in the writing of that story, then their toxicity or their past traumas are going to start making their way into the script. And then you're picking up their energy along the way. So you have to be very careful about knowing that you're telling a story. And you're going to tell a story. You have to tell a story because you have to figure out how to communicate that you're seeing this person. But when you want to do that, you want it to be a little bit more established first, not buying your own story too much. But certainly not. I've done just time and time again, bringing friends in and they interpret it one way and they add this thing and this layer. And then you're like, oh, I'm seeing a monster when it's actually like a normal guy. Or you're like, oh yeah, we're such a fit in this way. Like we could totally have 10 babies. You're right. I am meant for 10 babies and he will be the perfect face of them.
Or you could be Juleigh and literally come back home and Rebecca will be like, where have you been? I went to Vegas for the weekend. What'd you do? I got married.
So you do sometimes meet the friends. So yeah.
I don't know why I have this deep drama, but it totally goes with like, I could put it in my drink, but it totally goes with like I'm like, God, I feel like the fairy godmother.
No, it is. I like it. Ooh, I turn into something better.
Bippity boppity.
I don't even know what
we were talking about manifesting.
Manifesting. Oh,
earlier.
manifest dating. That's a great
dating.
manifestation.
Manifestation
with a D.
That's another good
it's
show.
Another episode we're gonna do.
We're doing energy. It's creative energy. So we were talking about we don't know how to do it. And if one more person says, you should just manifest it. I'm like, if I could just manifest it and figure out how it works, I'd win the lottery. I'd have the car I want. Yeah. I'd have the man I want. Like, so yeah, maybe that's what our next topic should be. That's our next show. Yeah. Which we're also going to be recording.
Because you not manifesting the partner of your dreams is that's a recipe to end up in a mental hospital. Putting yourself through that.
Is there pizza? Can I eat all the pizza I want? So I'm gonna body shame me. The 56-year-old gonna body shame me.
Oh my God! You know what gets me? Okay, wait.
Here's what gets me is that he was body shaming people. He takes a date to pizza, and then he was encouraging me to eat more pizza than he ate, and I was like, are you crazy?
You're a sadist.
I'm literally like thinking I should just be licking the layer of grease off the top and that's it.
I mean, yeah. But I was about to say
it.
That, well, I'm wrong, but we'll go with what I was about to say anyway, because it'll give me satisfaction. So many times these guys are like, oh, I want her to be like this, and she's going to look like Barbie itself, and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like schlubby as all hell, living in his mom's basement, hasn't even shaved, not in a good way.
Manifesting a double wide.
Yeah. And he's like, and he wants you to be like the bee's knees. This guy, unfortunately, we do have to say, he was very fit.
He was very fit.
He looked great.
However, I do think some of his, look, you're not kink shaming. Everybody has fantasies on some level.
Yeah, this is going to be horrible.
However, I said out of the gate, I think the way he is with his particular fantasies is because something that happened to him health-wise at an early age. And when I explained that, and we're not going to really explain it on this show, but when I explained it to Rebecca, she went, oh, I can see that 100%. And I had already accepted that I was okay with that fantasy.
Yeah.
But then it literally just went cockeyed.
Well, it was interesting. Because you told me about the first date and you were like, ick factor about this, ick factor about this. And then you said, I wonder if just all men are like this. And I was like, no, they're not. It doesn't all have to start that way. However, a lot of them are.
A lot of them do.
He's one of the millions. And anyway, but then I was like, oh, I don't like that he mentioned his kinks at dinner. I was like, why is he going into this on your first date? You're supposed to talk about pizza in Italy. You're supposed to talk about your favorite things in the world and what you'd like to do and what your toppings are that you enjoy, and not in a sexual way. And like, that's what a first date is for. By the way, I just love this. I love playing with this. It says dignity.
I like playing with this.
Dignity. Speaking of, and so
do we have substance that Rebecca likes playing with the mouse pad and I like playing with the pink straw? That.
So anyway, but then I was like, okay, I don't like that he talked about it in the restaurant. And then you were like, okay, well, these are what they were, and this is why we talked about it. And then you told me what they were, and I was like, okay, well, actually, this kind of sounds kind of cool. And it's all, different strokes for different folks.
Here's the thing that,
what we didn't like, and then you can talk.
I think of these things going in. I'm like, wait till she hears this tidbit I left out.
But what I didn't like then, full circle, was that it was still just too much of that. It was all about that. It was almost like Julie or the relationship itself was an experience for his sexual pleasure rather than a relationship.
He will say things like, I like pizza, and I'll do this thing where I go out and every Friday night I'll try a different kind of pizza with a different, and I'm like, great, shows that he likes variety. And then he'll say, and then he said, he wanted to go to the beach all this next week. And he was like, we'll go to a different beach every day. And I'm like, great. Still likes variety. And then he went, we're going to go to the nude beach, right? And I went,
Oh, that's me in there.
okay, sure. We'll go to the nude beach. And I thought, he's like, everywhere in Europe, women walk around topless and we're so prude here. And I thought,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Mansplain nude
So
beach is
then
something
he
sends
sends me a picture the next day and he was like, this is what I would really be into. And I thought, really? And it was a naked woman laying on her back with a slice of pizza over her hoo-ha. And he literally was like, I'd love that because I like pizza. And I went,
a different slice every week, huh?
I was like, that pizza would be cold because I don't know any woman that's going to slap a hot piece of pizza right over her hoo-ha and risk third-degree burns. And he went, I would be okay with that. I'm like, what? What? And then I thought, I'm really going to, and then I was like, I'm really going to have to be thin because I would imagine that I'd lay down as my half not comfortable with my body. I'm like, I'd have to put a whole pie over my lips. I have to have like a whole 12-inch pie that covers like part of my belly button and my game show buzzer. Oh my God. This would be me. I am dating this great guy. Yes. Can I get your largest pie? Please make it kid temperature because I don't want to burn off the first layer of epidermis, but I need your largest pie. Ma'am, what's your largest pie? Is it 12 inches? 13?
Is it 18?
14, 18 inches? I don't know. I need to put it over my lower abdomen and my hoo-ha.
It's like when you go to a shoe store.
And can I have that little plastic table so I can put that in my belly button and the pieces won't like lay on my body and burn me?
That's like when you call up a store and like a shoe store and you're like, do you think that like 8 in your store will fit someone who has a left foot that's an 8.5, and they have to kind of guesstimate over the phone, and they're like, we really need you to come in to find out.
Any limps? No, I'm just kidding.
And that's the pizza. We got to figure it.
But
we really got to get you to come in and try it on.
Here's the thing. I should have known in the restaurant when the lady behind him got up to leave with her family and she turned around and gave him the weirdest look. And then she looked at me like, poor you, poor lady. And I was like,
Yeah, I don't like judgment from another woman, but pity from another woman on a first date with someone is a red flag about the guy. But pity is the hard part. If they're judging you because you're with someone that doesn't look the way they might expect or what they might expect you to be with, fuck off. But it was hard. That was a hard red flag.
And I didn't seem to care at the moment that he has to inject a needle in just to get hard.
Oh, now we're just
now we're going there. Now it's Julie being nasty.
Okay, we're at
that
43
point.
minutes and 30
so
seconds.
we're actually going to end the show right now because that's a good place to end it. And remember, you can watch us, Optimistic in Orlando, Rose all day. Julie's a mess, clearly, if you've been listening. Rebecca's a little messy too sometimes.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you can watch us on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. We do have a live show that we're going to be doing tonight, even though it is the Oscars. So that'll tell you when this was filmed. And then we're going to film another one. But you can find us live on Sunday nights talking about online dating in a big city, the pitfalls, the wonderful moments, the surprised moments, the not surprised moments, gutter swipes. And we haven't talked about gas station candy in a while, but that's because I feel like I've grown out of that. But maybe we need to go back and have some gas station candy. So anyway, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you are watching a recorded version, which this was, then join us next week at 7 p.m. on justjulie.com on YouTube, and find us wherever you listen to your podcast. And we'll see you a little bit later. Love you guys. I should have had this like queued up. We're not finished yet. I know, but I gotta play the outro. Oh, there it is. She's like, we're not finished yet. I gotta play the outro bumper, Rebecca.
Oh, you got it.
This is a legitimate production issue.
For more content, follow justjuleigh.com. That's just Julie, JULEIGH.com. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for joining us this evening. Join us next week as Julie tries a different rosé.